what's the deal with Quinlan Vos? Is he dead? Is he alive? We still have no freaking idea, except for just one mention in canon, and that's Obi-Wan mentioning him in the hidden path thing where he discovered that a lot of Jedi are still surviving through this network and a lot of innocent people running away from the Empire. So that's the only tidbit information we had, and Obi-Wan series, you know, it wasn't the most informative of the shows, Star Wars shows that we have out there. I mean, it was just pure fanfare, nothing really was extracted from that show, but at least we got some semblance of information in canon regarding Quinlan Vos. Now, what we know from the novels, of course, is that Quinlan Vos and Asajj Ventress had developed some sort of a kinship relationship, or at the very least now in this late stage of canon, they have apparently developed, perhaps through this hidden path network, some sort of a cooperation thing. I don't doubt that Captain Rex and a lot of the other surviving clones will go on to also serve in the hidden path, as they all are trying to help other people in need, clones, citizens alike, especially Jedi Knights and Jedi Masters who are running away. So what does this actually mean for the future? What does this mean for specifically that I'm interested in this video talking about Quinlan Vos? What does this mean for Quinlan Vos and perhaps in a sense Asajj Ventress? Because I think that for Lucasfilm, Asajj Ventress is much more important than Quinlan Vos. You have to remember that Asajj Ventress has already made her comeback in The Bad Batch, and we know already that things are in the works. The actress for Asajj Ventress had talked in previous conferences that she is in fact prepping for a lot more work doing voiceover for Asajj Ventress. So this means she's gonna come back in some form or other. I think that it's gonna be an animated series, a different animated series, but perhaps, I don't know, maybe even a live action thing, although I don't believe that they will ever bring Asajj Ventress into live action. But at the end of the day, I think that they definitely should talk and reveal a lot more information about Quinlan Vos, because I'm definitely getting frustrated, and I think you guys are too. I see in the comments that Quinlan Vos has been a constant topic of discussion. We seriously don't know what the heck is going on. If you're gonna mention Quinlan Vos just passing by, you definitely should give us more information. I mean, the Obi-Wan series has been years, a couple of years have passed, and we have not a single shred of information about Quinlan Vos and what is he doing, what's his role within this network, how prominent is he, how much people know him, and was he perhaps even alive during the original trilogy timeline. And the most frustrating part, of course, is that Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan have a past, a very original and thoughtful past, especially in Legends. They grew up together and they were sort of rivals kind of thing. They had that rivalry thing, but in the Clone Wars animated series, we saw some episodes between Obi-Wan and Quinlan where they were, again, kind of a brotherly rivalry. So I think a duel between, you know, Quinlan Vos and Darth Vader, now Darth Vader coming for other surviving Jedi. Perhaps Quinlan Vos dismantles one of the Inquisitors. That would be a great badass scene. But then comes time for Darth Vader, the big baddie. So a death at the hands of Darth Vader, Quinlan Vos would have that badge of honor. Being killed by Darth Vader at the very least is one of the biggest honors a Jedi could get in Star Wars. That's a very memorable death. Let's not kid ourselves. So is it gonna happen? Is this really seriously real? I mean, we've talked about how an animated series is in the works, so perhaps it will definitely talk about this hidden path thing. Other clones, other Jedi working secretly against the Empire, and the big baddie Darth Vader. We saw him in Tales of the Empire, we didn't see him in The Bad Batch, but this series might focus a lot more on Darth Vader than we originally think. They have shelved Darth Vader for quite a while. We need him to come back. We definitely need more Darth Vader in this menacing form of him hunting down Jedi. I mean, remember the Star Wars Rebels series. Vader not only played a crucial role, but he had such a great story in that with Ahsoka. It's phenomenal. I would love to see that again. And of course, a lot more Asajj Ventress things continuing from The Bad Batch. Now it is time for battle. There are no more different factions spread across the galaxy fighting relentlessly against a giant empire, an organized and structured empire. This time around, as we see in the original trilogy, the rebellion is a concise organization under the helm of Mon Mothma. Therefore, it is pretty clear, I think, that Asajj Ventress will end up fighting for the rebellion too. Now, I want to discuss today why this is important. You see, in the original trilogy, we only hear of the rebellion from afar, and once Luke joins them in A New Hope, Luke is not a Jedi helping out the rebellion with his Jedi acuity. Obi-Wan has abandoned them altogether. He is only focused on Luke. Yoda is on Dagobah, so not a lot of Jedi in the rebellion midst. But what does the Empire have? Well, during Imperial times, during the early Imperial times, at the very least, we see that they have Inquisitors, which are Jedi hunters, essentially. And even though they will somehow or another be involved in this rebel fight, they can use their prowess. They are Force users, which makes them superior to just soldiers using blasters. But by the time of the original trilogy, we don't see any more Inquisitors, but the Empire still does have Darth Vader, a Sith Lord who can use his power and his might much more than the rebel soldiers, as we see in the comics. The famous line, "All I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men." He kills hundreds of rebel soldiers just by himself, meaning that the power dynamic is disproportionate at this point. This is why Asajj Ventress and hopefully Quinlan Vos joining the rebellion early on is very, very important. Even before Luke Skywalker joined their midst, I think that a show about clone rebellion, we have discussed this earlier, I would love to see that, but if we end up seeing a grown-up Omega joining the rebellion, and in the rebellion's midst, you also have Asajj Ventress going up against, let's say, Inquisitors, for example, that would just be beautiful. That would be perfect, simply because it would balance things out. You know that the rebellion will have trouble if they only use soldiers, if they only use ships. At this point, even using these resources, they are outnumbered, they are outgunned, and they are outmatched because the Empire has vast resources, superior technology, and sheer numbers. The rebellion is at a low point even in those departments, let alone if the Inquisitor joins or Darth Vader, they immediately are at a huge disadvantage. But now think about it. The rebellion goes on a fight, they have an Inquisitor, they have Darth Vader, enter Asajj Ventress, enter Quinlan Vos. Now, the Bad Batch finale doesn't actually tell us when exactly Omega joins the rebellion, meaning that Omega and Asajj Ventress will link up. As we saw, Asajj Ventress had a very strong affinity for Omega during the later episodes of Bad Batch Season 3, so she will already be familiar with Omega, and once she joins the rebellion, they will probably have some adventures together, meaning that, of course, we might see this in a future animated show. As we've discussed many a times, we'll love to see another clone series this time around. They are not the government, they are not the Republic, they are the rebels. They are the outsiders, meaning the clones, Rex, Hauser, Cody perhaps, and even Echo. During this show, during Rex's adventures and the clones, while they're fighting the Empire, they will of course be sometimes outmatched by Inquisitors. This is why I'm thinking structurally for this show. I know that they will need all the help they can get. If you see the story arcs, you know that once clones are involved, in the original Clone Wars series, you know that once clones were involved, you had separatist droids. So everything went sort of in the middle. Whoever could beat their opponent would win. But sometimes if Jedi generals were also involved, like Anakin, like Obi-Wan, like Ahsoka, you would see General Grievous get involved too. Perhaps Count Dooku. So things would always balance out in the Clone Wars show sometimes. And I would love for this to be true in this new series as well, meaning that Asajj would get ample amount of time to show her skills off. I mean, just imagine Asajj Ventress versus one of the Inquisitors. Asajj Ventress versus the Grand Inquisitor even. That would be just a great duel, a great show. And of course, the ultimate show, the ultimate duel, Asajj Ventress versus Darth Vader. Don't forget that in the original Clone Wars cartoon, you have Asajj Ventress versus a young Anakin Skywalker. In fact, the scar that Anakin has on the side of his eye was done by a young Sith assassin by the name of Asajj Ventress, who was then under the tutelage of Count Dooku. I would love to know your thoughts down below, so talk to me down in the comments.